Hello and welcome to Mastering the Box, and in this week's video we're going to take a look at mastering compression in Studio 1.5. Hello and welcome to Mastering in the Box. I'm your host Smudge, and in this week's video we're going to take a look at mastering compression in Studio 1.5. So, for those who saw last week's video, we took a look at normalizing audio and how we can use the normalizing process inside of Studio 1.5 to add level to our master without adding compression. So in that particular instance we used normalizing to increase the overall volume rather than using the input gain from a limiter. In this week we're going to take that one step further by using that additional headroom or lack of compression from the limiter, and how we can then use our favourite compressors to then affect the overall dynamics and add that character and flavour that we're looking for. So just as a reminder, if you want to learn more about digital mastering and if you like this particular type of content, please don't forget to subscribe by clicking the subscribe button below, and don't forget to hit that bell and select all so you receive notifications on all of our future releases moving forward. Just as a recap, the song we're going to use this week is the same song we used last week, which is the song Empty Bottle Blues by Nick Graveswell. This song is on the EP Songs to Drink To and is a fantastic EP. I had the pleasure in mastering this for Nick and it's really worth checking out. I'll leave links in the description down below. As I say, it's Nick Graveswell and Empty Bottle Blues. So, normalizing audio. As we discussed last week, the process of normalizing audio is you take the difference between the peak level and the digital ceiling and you raise the entire track up by that amount. So it effectively cuts out the difference between the peak level and the digital ceiling being 0 dBFS. Why do we do it this way? Well, because we're then not going to use the limiter as a volume button. We know that a limiter is in essence a compressor, and if we use the input gain of the limiter, then invariably by the time we increase the volume of the overall track, it's going to start adding compression before we've even started to master the track. So what we can then use is the normalizing audio process to increase the overall volume, and then we can add the limiter at the master stage purely to use it for its intended purpose to limit the track. So effectively, if any peaks then at that stage try to go over the digital ceiling, the limiter will then step in and clip those peaks. It will take those peaks off and it will avoid the song from digital clipping. This is going to reduce the amount of overall compression that the limiter applies and give us more depth, creativity and room to manoeuvre with our overall compression moves. So let's just take a little listen to the song just to get an idea of what the material is we're listening to, and we'll get the limiter and the level meter up just so we can take a look at where we are before we start adding further compression. So as you can see in this particular instance, the limiter is literally just catching those peaks. Reduction is less than a dB, and we can look at the overall level using the level meter. Our integrated is coming in around about 13.5 LUFS on an integrated level, which is it's ideal to start with. I'm not a big fan of using LUFS as target measures, but I am a big fan of responsible loudness. So now we've got the overall level boosted by using the normalization feature. We've got the limiter in place just to catch those peaks, so it's going to avoid the digital clipping. And we know that our true peak, if you look at the level meter here, the true peak levels are coming in at minus 1.24 dB. I can now take a bit of a breather and use my ears rather than my eyes and focusing on the overall level. I know we're now in a good ballpark. As long as we don't start adding too much level in with our compression moves, we don't really need to worry too much more about the overall level. Once again, mastering is about the sound, it's not about what it looks like. Now I know lots of people have different opinions around whether we should master to minus 14 LUFS integrated or not. My view is let your ears be the guide. What does it sound like? Does it sound good? If it sounds good, it is good. Don't worry about using a target figure, but just master responsibly. So before we get into the plugins in this particular episode, I just want to give you some guidance in relation to my thought process around compression. Don't feel hoodwinked or don't feel pressured into using compression in a mastering setting if you're happy with the dynamics. I say this for lots of different reasons. If you're happy that your mix and your song or your client's mix or your client's song has got a good dynamic range, don't feel that you have to use a compressor in the mastering stage. A lot of people will purely focus on the EQ moves rather than the compression moves, because that way you can really influence certain particular frequencies at different stages to really craft the song as to how you want it to sound. Now, depending on what type of compression you use and how you use it, of course it's going to give you different ways of affecting the dynamics in a track, but don't feel that you have to do it. It is not a given, it's not a hard and fast rule, so don't feel pressurized into using compression if you are happy with the overall dynamics of the song. Also, don't feel that you have to get your compression through one plugin. A really good way to use compression is to use small subtle amounts but in different stages in your mastering chain. So what I want to do is go through this particular song and we'll discuss how I am using compression in this particular song. Okay, so let's start putting this into practice then. First and foremost, let's get the compressor up. What are we doing in this particular circumstance? So we are looking for a mild compression. The ratio I set to 1.5 to 1. The knee I have left on default. The attack is relatively fast at 2.24 milliseconds with a relatively slow release at 107.2 milliseconds. Input gain of 0. Makeup gain of 1.73 dB. All the makeup gain is doing is just balancing the gain reduction that we're getting from the overall compression. Okay, side chain left as it is, mix 100%. We are not looking at doing too much compression using this single compressor. This is the stock compressor available in Studio One 5, and it's a great versatile compressor to use. Very transparent, and I like the fact that the ratio goes to really low levels, so you can just get that really mild level of compression that we really want in the mastering stage. So let's take a listen, let's see the compressor in action. Come drag me down, empty bottle blues. Come watch me drown. I don't know what to feel. Okay, so as we can see, the reduction is, once again, it's a very minute amount. It's less than 2 dBs. It's literally 1.5 dBs. But what it's doing is it's just rounding off the entire track. It's giving some weight to the low end. It's really making that kick more weighty and the bass more weighty. And it's just giving the overall track that glue that we're looking for. So if you use it in this particular style, just giving that moderate compression just to start with, just to give it that glue, this will set you up for the rest of your mastering stage. Next in the chain we have the RC500 Channel Strip. I love using the channel strip for mastering because you get a decent compressor, but you also get a limited equalizer. I am a big fan of using the power limitations because what it's going to do is it's really going to force you to be thoughtful with any EQ moves you make, because in this particular instance we've only got 3 different EQ moves we can make. It's literally a high peak or shelf, a mid frequency adjustment and a low peak or shelf. That's it. So it really makes you focus on the song, really makes you attentive as to what it is you want to try to achieve with your EQ, and it really forces you to be thoughtful in that process. Okay, so how are we using the RC500 then? So we have got a moderate attack, a moderate to slow release, and the threshold around about -2.5. In the EQ mode, we are not affecting the high end, we're not adding a peak or shelf in the top end in this plugin. We are using a slight dip at around 700, and we've also got a slight boost at 75. So this is, once again, it's just going to add that extra weight to that low end. It's going to make that kick pop a little bit more, give some more roundness to the bass guitar. So let's take a listen and see how it sounds. As you can see, once again, the compressor is hardly doing anything. It's probably 1 dB of gain reduction at best, but it's just adding that extra glue, that extra togetherness, and it's just really bringing everything in. What I really like in this instance is the EQ. Just those two EQ moves are really just making the low end more round. It's giving it more energy, more punch, and it's just taking out a little bit of that 700. I don't like the 700 hertz range. It's that nasal range, and just taking that little bit out just gives it a bit more clarity. So last but not least, we are going to feature the Fat Channel. Now the Fat Channel it's featured before. I love this plugin. It is a great versatile channel strip style plugin, but I'm not going to use the compressor and I'm not going to use the limiter. I purely want this just for the Baxandall EQ. And what this is effectively is, it's a shelf EQ. So rather than using the shelf EQ in the RC500, what I'm actually doing in this particular instance is using it here in the Fat Channel XT plugin. And then what we've got is we've got a low shelf at 74 hertz, and then we've got a high shelf from 7.1k, and it's just small moves. So we're literally talking, what, 1 dB plus 1 dB on either range, and it's just going to give us that overall a little bit more high end and a little bit more definition in the low end. So let's take a listen. So this is really fattening up that kick drum. This is where it gets so useful to use little bits of each different plugin. You'll make these very small incremental changes and you think, is it really doing anything? And when you then take out all of the inserts and you bypass all the plugins and then put them back in, it makes so much of a difference. It's unbelievable. So on that note, what we'll do now is we're going to bypass all the effects, we'll put them back in and see what these incremental changes are doing to the overall track. So as you can see, it's just giving it glue, it's giving it more weight, it's giving it more energy. It brings out the vocal, just adding that little bit of compression and using the compressor to adjust the dynamic range on the vocal. Just lifts the vocal a little bit more. We're adding quite a bit of the low end to give the low end some more body, some more oomph. And we've only used 5 plugins, and just making small incremental changes in this way can make a big difference in your mastering chain. So there we have it. We are just using some minute amounts of compression, and we're stacking the compression to give us that overall master that we are looking for. We're not doing anything drastic, we're not looking to reinvent the wheel, it's just small incremental changes just to add up. So we are retaining dynamics, but we're giving the entire song more glue, more energy, more punch, more impacts. So this is just a great way to use compression, stack the compressors to give us a different way of looking at things, using the limiter as it's intended, just to limit and catch the peaks, and then supplement the compression with EQ moves. I hope you have found this video useful and give some of these techniques a go, and if you do and you get some great results out of them, let me know in the comments down below, as I'll be really keen to understand how you are using some of these techniques to really take your mastering to the next game. Don't forget to subscribe by clicking the subscribe button below, and hit that bell and select all so you're notified of all of our videos moving forward. All that's left for me to say is I hope you all keep safe and well, and I'll see you in the next video real soon.